play some album stuff, and then if you guys have questions about anything you've seen me play, or just questions in general, I'll have a Q&A after each song, and then we'll just kind of do it like that. Is that cool?
Yeah.
There's kind of a lot going on in that song. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but feel free to ask any. Please ask one. How about that?
How'd you get into 8-string guitars?
I got into 8-string guitars because of my sugar. I'd been playing 7-string for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at that point, and then they went ahead and made an album called Nothing that had 8-string stuff, and I had never really heard anything like it, and then it kind of was pretty motivating. All right, anyone else?
Where did you study? Sorry.
Where are you at?
After Reflux. So what did you do musically until you sort of made it down to the list?
Okay. Can everyone hear the question? Should I repeat the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. He's wondering where I went to music school, I guess. Is that what you're wondering?
Yeah, did you? Or, what did you do?
Yeah, all right. I'm in my 16th year of guitar playing. I was touring in a progressive metalcore band called Reflux, right, and we were signed. After that point, the band kind of broke up and I decided to go to music school. I had been playing for about 12 years at that point, so that's when I went to music school. I'd already developed all the chops from instructional videos, like Paul Gilbert and Frank Mbali and Yngwie Malmsteen and stuff like that. But that was all like emulation of, I would see them demonstrate stuff and I would just learn it, but I didn't really know what the harmonic minor scale was or what like a dominant chord was really. I was just emulating stuff by ear. Music school, I went in 2006 to the Atlanta Institute of Music, and they have a one-year music program that's, it's college level courses, but it's, a condensed curriculum, so it's not a degree program. You don't go for 4 years or however long you guys go to university here. It's 1 year and they try to kind of get you reading music and, understanding just harmony and rhythm a little bit more than you did before. So that's kind of, I think my playing took off a bit after doing that. I kind of had more of a grasp of what I was really doing, so, yeah.
Can you play blues?
Kind of. I prefer not to, most of the time. Actually, blues is great. I just like, I don't know. I feel like it's such a stylistic form of guitar playing that I think to really do it justice, you should spend most of your time listening to it and playing it. And I listen to other stuff mainly, so I think a blues player would kind of look at me and then look the other direction or something. Yeah. He might like my hat though. You got one?
Yeah. How did going to music school affect your songwriting?
We didn't actually have composition classes, but it got me thinking about chord progressions a lot more. And things like tension, like melodic tension and release, I guess. So how chords resolve, like cadences and stuff like that. So all these things are intuitive. When you're listening to music, you're receiving a lot of this stuff, whether you know it on a theoretical level or not. But school just kind of put a focus on it and put it into words, and we really examined what was going on when maybe a chord made you feel sad or made you feel happy or like the Twilight Zone or whatever the case is. So that's what it helped me to kind of put that into my music a little bit more. You got one?
Is that how you developed your chord vocabulary after school? Because a lot of videos I've seen where you're just jamming, you just have all these really cool just progressions that you're just coming up with. I'm just kind of how does he sort of develop all those voicings and all that stuff? How did you develop that vocabulary of chords?
Okay, developing chord vocabulary. I had to learn jazz standards. And beyond that, here's what happens with learning harmony on an advanced level. You end up learning jazz because it's the only form of Western music that really utilizes harmony to that extent. So whether you like jazz or not, you might end up sounding jazzy if you're playing a 13th chord or a sharp 11 chord or something. But beyond learning, jazz, it was more of learning chord construction, like the options you have when you play a chord. So, you could play an A major triad, right? Or say you didn't want to play that, you could play an A major 7th chord. Or what if you wanted to add, a sharp 4 or sharp 11? So then you're getting into more interesting intervals on top of the same chord, stuff like that. So that's where I kind of started to really get, I guess, more of a developed harmonic.
Does the 8-string give you more options as well for voicings and stuff?
Absolutely. Let me see. So basically, a really basic way to describe what's going on is, say if I took that same A major chord, the way I have this tuned is that if I bar below the 8 string, I have a 5th in the bass. bass, or E, right? And if I go all the way down, I have another A, an octave below where I started. So I have this really full, 3-octave chord. So you can just start messing around with various intervals against that same root. Another cool thing to do is to utilize open chords, in your voicing. So say I wanted to play like an E minor chord. Like that's a really, basic sort of voicing of it, but I could do like an E minor 9 like that. If I slide it up an octave. Or I do like G major 7 over E. I could do that. Or I could do a first inversion of G major 7. So now I'm using a lot of open strings, and it just sounds kind of like you got two people on the piano or something. So the 8th string definitely expands your ability to play chords, especially positionally as well, because, if you wanted to play this A here, you'd have to have a 7th string first of all. But there's various other things where, like, if I wanted to grab an F sharp, I'd have to do it here normally, but the 7th string will allow me to play it in this position, which opens up all these notes here, which I couldn't do down there.
Yeah.
So it's really advantageous. Yeah, one.
In Tempting Time, the rhythm just after the first time you do the tapping part, what is going on there? I can't learn it.
After the tap, which part?
After the first time you go through the tapping part, which you play disordered, then you play it clean later. Yeah, just
No.
just after that part, you play a rhythm on the B, I think.
Oh, you're talking about the very beginning of the song?
No, after that.
After that. So after all the sweeping,
Yeah.
the first round or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I might need you to narrow. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I know the part you're talking about. I'll try to break it down. Okay, so the first.
That was so much easier.
I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. What I do is I kind of just learn my own version of what's going on. So if you were to notate it rhythmically, I'm sure it'd be like an odd meter 8th note based phrase that was cycling over an even meter, if that makes sense, right? So maybe it's in 7/8 or something like that, but you're hearing a quarter note pulse. But I just go dun 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 dun. I didn't write that part. Misha, the guy who produced the album for me, he kind of had that rhythmic idea. But you'll hear there's stuff like that throughout all of our music. So there might be an example where I can actually explain exactly what's going on a little bit better than this thing. Okay. You got one?
Who's your favourite band?
My favorite band? My favorite band, like right now, my favorite band? Because it like changes over time or whatever. Favorite band? It has to be like a band with instruments and stuff like that? Jeez, I'm listening to a lot of Alan Holdsworth lately, actually. Because he's an alien now. I like that. So I'm really into that lately, I guess, yeah. You got one.
When writing the second Animals to Leaves album, were you planning to write a particular new sound, or were you just kind of letting your writing develop naturally?
It's a little bit of both, and we were kind of terrified because, well, the first album was done with myself and Misha Mansour, and so that was kind of the sound. It was the two of our musical minds put together. The second album was after I'd formed an actual live band, and we decided that we wanted to write as a unit, and we were afraid that it would sound too different because, there was the missing element of Misha, who's pretty impactful. But we were also afraid because we were really getting into a lot of electronic music, and we wanted to kind of incorporate that, but we didn't know if you guys were getting into electronic music and wanted us to incorporate it. But in the end, we just stopped having conversations about it, and we just started just writing, and it sort of wrote itself, so yeah. All right, we'll do one last question. You got one?
Do you write down much of your music, like on a, say, computer notation program or on stuff, or do do you just listen to it and remember it?
I don't notate anything really, and I'm really lazy, so I won't even tab stuff out for the other guitar player. But yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be the person who's writing most of this, and I have a pretty easy time remembering what I make up. But I encourage you to use any method of. All right, I'm gonna do another song.
Yeah.
That song was called Wave of Babies. It doesn't really mean anything, so don't really ask. But do we have any questions after that? A few. All right, we'll start with you.
Animals as Leaders, Periphery, Tesseract, Meshuggah co-headlining tour. Will that ever happen?
Everybody co-headlining?
Yeah,
And just like
a
take
four-band
turns.
co-headlining thing.
Or like draw straws before each show. So. That'd be a good package. I mean, I don't know if you should write your local congressman or whatever. We're doing shows with Meshuggah in the UK, which doesn't really help you, but
Can you bring it here?
we'd love to. Meshuggah's coming for Soundwave, is it, or one of those? Yeah, so you can see them.
When will we get an Animals as Leaders
We-
headlining tour here?
Man, we've been trying to come for a while. I don't really know. I mean, the fact that I'm here now is a good sign, though. So hopefully, and the fact that you guys are all here is an even better sign. So I think maybe this year. Maybe this year. We'll see. I don't know.
With a lot of your legs, you seem to like incorporate a lot more of the picking and sweeping together rather than just kind of doing one thing at a time. Can you just like explain your idea behind a lot of your legs?
Okay. He's asking like a technique-based question, and are you all guitar players, or for the most part? Well, all right. Well, anyway, we all know what alternate picking is, right? Down, up, unbroken, down, up, down, up. Well, what I do is a lot of economy picking, which is actually invented by a fellow Australian, Frank Mbali. Yeah. So it's economy picking because you're basically, all right. Say you're doing a 3-note per string pattern. If you're alternate picking, you have down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. But what happens when you're physically changing strings is you have down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. On those upstrokes, like down, up, that third upstroke is actually the opposite direction of where your next note is. So you're going, well, take my word for it, right? So what you want to do with economy picking is you're eliminating that upstroke and you're just doing 2 downstrokes in a row. So you're going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, like that. And it allows you to kind of get a lot of speed because you're eliminating a needless upward motion, you know. So a lot of my, even parts like stuff like that is it's like a combination of sweep picking. You know what that is, right? It's basically raking, right? Well, I'd say economy picking is the middle ground between alternate picking and sweep picking. It allows you to play multiple notes on one string, but still continue with a raking sort of motion to achieve, you know, notes on the adjacent strings. Is that helping at all?
Yeah, I probably should have worded it a bit differently. You know, yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. I figured that, yeah, you were using economy picking, but I guess your note choices, like, you don't, I should have probably said, you don't just kind of play arpeggios, you kind of mix in.
Yeah, which is another jazz, all right, let me see. So there's, you know, when you're economy picking, there's actually a limitation in place, and it says that whenever you're doing, if you want to ascend to the next string, you have to do an odd amount of notes on that string, because it'll put you on the opposite stroke, right? It'll keep you going down. And if you want to reverse directions, you have to do an even note grouping, right? So it kind of dictates what you're allowed to do, and through that, you can come up with some interesting phrases. And that's part of the reason some of my lines might sound a certain way, is because I'm kind of rigidly alternate pick or economy picking. So it's kind of dictating like when I change strings and how many notes I play on each string. But beyond that, like, I try not to just play scales ascending and descending unless I want to. And what I try to do is play arpeggio shapes. So, trying to think of some good examples. Okay. So say I wanted to play over like an E minor chord like this. So single actual scale yet, but what I did do is take maybe like an E9 chord. So I'm going like the first degree of the scale, the fifth degree, the seventh degree, then I'm sliding up to its octave, and then I'm doing that again. So it has a more dispersed, interval sort of sound, and it kind of obscures the tonality as well, which is hip. Apparently, it's a good thing to do. So like another thing is using. You can use major arpeggios against minor chords, right? So with that same E, let's see. I can use G major 7 over this E. Right, so now I'm kind of like using diatonic chord harmony against a chord, and you produce intervals that just are a bit more away from the tonal center of the chord you're playing on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are all like jazz chord concepts. Like most players, when they're playing over a standard, they'll play over each chord, and they'll usually choose to use an arpeggio as the basis of their phrase, as opposed to the whole scale. So instead of playing the G major scale, you play a G major 7 arpeggio, and you restrict yourself to only using the chord tones inside of that arpeggio. And it usually produces more musical results because you're trimming off a lot of the fat. And the notes that you are playing are very musical. They're chord tones or they're color tones. So that's kind of how I try to solo. Yeah.
Did that kind of create a Lydian effect there then? Sorry, from that?
Say that again?
Did that kind of create like a Lydian kind of tonality then, with what you were doing?
Yeah, I don't know if it really implies Lydian as much as it'll bring out extensions in the chords. You know what a cool superimposition to do is like, if you wanted to imply Lydian, say, so say I was playing over a B major 7 chord, right? This is you can use a minor pentatonic scale off the 7th degree of the major chord, right? So you can use C, B flat. I'm doing B, so you can use B flat, right? And it sounds like this. This is when I do use the blues, by the way. So that's my root, right? But I'm using this as actually the start of my scale. So basically, if you want to imply Lydian, you can play a minor pentatonic scale off the major 7th of that chord. And it sounds cool. You play all your blues licks, and it just has that blues feel, but you're implying Lydian. So if you can remember that one, that's a fun little trick. Yeah.
I was wondering I don't know if you're slacking the strings or something, but it's somewhere along the lines, and it's better to ask you now after the in the last song, but what exactly are you doing, if you can explain, or just that's not...
Okay. Yeah, he's wondering, basically, I am slapping, and it's a little bit different than the conventional slap pop stuff. Like, what I'm doing is double stroking with my thumb, so I go down through the string and back up. Yeah, it's pretty useful and economic because you produce two notes out of one motion, basically. Also, you can start to incorporate other fingers, right? So. Right there I'm going down, up, and then I'm using my index finger, right? But you can use your middle finger as well, so you can produce groups of 4. Right? And then... what I've recently started doing is using three fingers. Yeah. So that's let me see. Well, if you did it, you get a group of 5. Which another way to produce a group of 5 is to actually hammer on a note, right? So you can do like a. So I'm hammering on the first note, and then I'm doing 4 on this hand. You can. You can get that up pretty fast if you care to. But it's pretty cool. It's just basic addition. So say I wanted to do a group of 7, and I only know how to do a double stroke and use these 2 fingers. I could combine a group of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a group of 4. Right. So you can, So you can kind of get different note groupings like that. And what's cool about it is, obviously, timbrally, it sounds like you're, my downstroke sounds different than my upstroke, and then my index finger sounds different than my thumb, and my middle, so you get all this sort of velocity variation in the notes you're producing, and it has a very cool sound. Then you can kind of start. Actually, let me go back. So, in using these groups of 3s, here's a cool little exercise if you do want to work this stuff up. This is kind of intermediate after you've gotten the basic mobility down, but I've started just doing a simple. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So ascending with all my fingers. Then I subtract a finger each time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. That'd be the last one. And you get a pattern like this. That's just percussive, so if you want to add some notes, this is actually like a newer riff I'm working on. It sounds a lot better on an 8-string than it would on a Stratocaster or something like that.
Where did you pick the technique up?
There was a bass player I was playing with, Evan Brewer. I don't know if he has an album out now. He plays in the Faces as well. But he had learned it from Reggie Wooten, who is Victor Wooten's older brother, who's a world-class bass player. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that they made it up or whatever. They're the first dudes to do it. But it's kind of their thing, and then I learned it by way of Evan, and then I've tried to expand upon it, specifically through not playing funk or whatever, just using it for odd note groupings and really syncopated phrases in odd meter. It's kind of what I like to do with it. Thanks. Well, I'm going to do a little bit more about slapping. Hold on. Because you can, the guitar is a melodic instrument, obviously, so the cool thing about this is you can start to incorporate notes and just get some interesting sounding melodic stuff. You kind of introduce it into triads and various other, just simple 3-note chords. And it sounds, I don't even know what it sounds like, a banjo maybe? Maybe it sounds like a banjo, I don't know. Hopefully not. But anyway, you should mess around with it, it's pretty fun. Just start with the down-up thing, maybe jump octaves and then go from there. Yeah.
It sounds very Satriani-ish. I had to say it.
Satriani, yeah, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, he's got a tune. I think he uses delay to get the effect. Oh God, I hope he doesn't see that. I love Joe Satriani. You got a question?
Yeah, mate. It's more about your harmony on the Weightless album. Do you find that you try and derive your harmony from people like Alan Holdsworth, Greg Howe, Brett Garcett, if you've heard of him? He's an
I've heard of him, yeah. Excellent player.
From the Gold Coast. You know how they use a lot of augmented, diminished sort of harmony? I found a lot more of that on the Weightless album.
There is way more of it, and I'm glad you noticed.
Did you consciously try and get their sort of sound, or?
What actually happened is the first album's material is actually quite a few years old, and so this represents where I was with my guitar playing then. By the time I got around to recording Weightless, most of that material was post-music school stuff, and I, learned modes of melodic minor and harmonic minor, and so that harmony had crept into my playing, but it just wasn't really on the first album as much. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm at these days. I really like challenging harmony. Like, I'm not as out as Holdsworth, but it's kind of in the same direction.
Yeah, no one's as out as Holdsworth.
I know, he's... So...
Yeah, I kind of found that on the first harmony, it was a lot of major harmony, a lot of
yeah, all like basic major scale stuff, which, dude, you could probably write a lifetime's worth of material with just diatonic major scale harmony and not really, feel like you're missing out on anything. But if you want to get weird, whole tone and augmented major triads and stuff like that, which is stuff I really like because it, it's just a bit more compelling. It creates that like, all right, here's what I think most scales and modes kind of imply a tonality that pretty much is an emotion, right? So it's usually on the happy side of life or the negative side. And a lot of the modes of melodic minor and harmonic minor are combining, a major seventh but a minor third. And so now you've got this sweet and sour thing happening, or this sort of like bittersweet sort of thing creeping in. And I find it, I really like it, so that's kind of using that stuff. You got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, in Where the Babies, the second repeat of the slap guitar riff is what sounds like a tap or a sweep riff over the top.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen you play it.
Yeah, okay.
You do it for the EMG 808 demonstration even, so I'm just curious.
I forgot how to play it. And it's like, we were recording that song, and I'm sure you guys have, recording rigs at home, and digital recording kind of allows you to like jump in at a point in the song if you want to. And that riff was going, and I just started like tapping out this thing, and it was like sweet, but I like never did it again after we recorded it. And I was like, I felt like, for the live situation, I actually needed to keep slapping, because otherwise no one would be. Javier's kind of playing this octave sort of droning thing, so it made more sense for me to just keep doing the bass stuff. So.
Yeah. Just really quickly, with the whole live thing, because I've actually seen you live, obviously. With stuff like that, do you just program the extra guitar riffs, or do you and Javier just basically make up live versions of each track?
No, I usually loop whatever he and I can't do, and it's rare that it's more than 3 parts that we need to. But yeah, I just kind of loop it live. Yeah. All right. You got a question?
Yeah, I had a question about technique. You didn't do it so much in Wave Babies, but in a couple of songs where you're doing the two-hand tapping stuff, where you're doing like a riff rather than a lead line. I've been experimenting trying to do that stuff. How do you get such a clean sound from doing right-hand tapping, especially on a clean tone?
Yeah.
Because when I play it, it sounds like I'm hitting the strings.
Yeah. Okay. You have to like tap hard, is how that works. Yeah. I don't know any other, like... So you want to like be able to do it like slow enough where you've got quite a bit of volume, even volume, whether it's your left or right hand, and then sustain is important because it shows you have control over every note that you're producing, right? So, I take whatever you would want it to tap and slow it down on a clean tone. And if you can, at a slow to moderate tempo, if you can get every note to hang, sustain, then you're probably hitting it hard enough. And if it sounds even, whether you're tapping or fretting, then you're going to produce an even sound when you've got it up to speed.
So is it more about like the strength in your fingers, or is there also an element of your tone involved as well, like having the right pickups to pick up the...
Oh, yeah, there's some help, like compression. I got a lot of stuff in this rack, but compression basically takes the lowest notes and brings them up to a certain point that you want it, and takes the loudest notes and keeps those down. And what it does is produce a very even output. But so if you use pedal still, you could just get like any sort of compression pedal. It'll help, but I wouldn't want to use that while developing the technique because it's a bit of a crutch, But once you've got it up and you can do it either way, it'll help to cut, in a mix or something, you throw some compression on there. But what kind of tapping are you doing? Are you doing more like the Van Halen, like stuff like that?
I'm trying to do riff stuff that you do, like not it's anywhere as complicated as you have.
Yeah. Okay. There's cool. There's stuff you can do while holding a chord, right? Like using the chord as a capo. So you can just tap out